So we have re-engineered them from scratch. What we've done is that we have looked at the javelins and we said nothing have happened really since 2001, 2002 with different brands. So we said we need to look at the aerodynamics of the Javelin in general, do some tests, do some simulations in air tunnels, and see what happens. So, the Valhalla. Brand new aerodynamic body, can be available in hard carbon and hybrid carbon, and brand new next generation tips. Valkyria, same brand new aerodynamic body, only hybrid carbon and one next generation tip. So I'm going to go in detail now. What we've done with Valhalla is that we created the first front of the Javelin thicker than any other Javelin on the market, and the back end thinnest possible, what is possible to do within the IAAF limits. What it does is that you get more air here in the Javelin. It creates more lift in front. And then when the thinner part, the back end, it releases the air like this. It creates the Javelin to glide more. A little bit. Then we made a brand new blunt tip. You know, a lot of them call it cigar tips, mostly, but we looked at them. We looked at our competitors, we looked at our own blunt tips, and we said that we need to do something because there is more space to do within the limits, within the rules. So what we did is that we did the part more or less same thickness all the way, what is possible. And then in the front, we made it more oval blunt, not sharp blunt, but a little bit more oval, to create more air cushion, to break the air a little bit softer. And then we made the new sharp. It is based on air glider tip, so we made it a little bit more thicker all the way as well, same thickness all the way, and a little bit more sharper, and the same way a little bit more oval, to create more air cushion, but during the headwind and no wind. The blunt is actually pretty good on the tailwind. This is how they look in real life. You see the blunt one is pretty thick all the way. And here's the video how we make them. Oh, the hell. We make every tip by hand. So every tip in our Javelin is made by hand. Balanced, checked, and compared to tooling. We have a special tooling to double check that every Javelin is up to the rules. So you ask me probably asking what is hard carbon. The hard carbon Javelin is development of the carbon Javelins we had since the last 17 years. It's a 80+ Javelin. It's less forgiving than the ground carbons we have now, but it has a faster correction in the air. What it means is that when you release it, it doesn't feel as stiff as the carbons do, but it corrects itself faster than the regular carbon Javelins. It goes directly, boom, and then it continues to glide. And you want to have that effect on the Javelin. You don't want a Javelin to wobble all the way, because it's going to lose force, it's going to lose power, it's going to lose speed, and it's going to drop. The medium carbon javelin is a mix between two carbons, or two composite materials, a fiberglass and a carbon. So we don't use any steel in the hybrid javelin, actually. It's more forgiving than the carbon javelin, so it's softer. It feels a little bit like very stiff aluminum javelin. It has pretty good correction, but not as same as Valhalla. But it still corrects itself pretty fast, and it's more forgiving on the shoulder. So it feels a little bit like aluminum javelin, more or less, but it's a composite javelin. The Valkyria javelin is exactly the same as Valhalla in design. So we have more or less didn't change anything in it. It's the same thickness in front, same thickness in the back. The change is the material. The glass fiber and the carbon is used in a different way, so it creates it more forgiving, more better to throw for the athletes who are not as technically good as, for example, 80-plus throwers, 85 throwers. Questions? The price? Well, actually, they are cheaper than the carbons we had before. So all the prices on the web, you can go check in. Yeah, I'm working on it. I was in Phoenix last week, so I'm working on it. So, no more questions about the tips? I'm going to tell one thing I've talked about with some athletes a couple of weeks. To talk about the tips in general is that you have blunt tip, sharp tip, and all-around tip. And we've been done a lot of studies in the last 2 years and tunnels and simulations, and you can see a big difference that when it's a blunt tip, this javelin flies pretty good on a high angle and tailwind. When you have a headwind and you throw it high, the javelins just go up and then it goes up more. And you can see that on the YouTube or anything. You can see some javelins, they go up and then they lose the power and they just drop. We say that for the headwind, when it's a headwind, you should use a sharp tip because it's going to cut through the air and it's going to get the lift. The wind that creates on the javelin, you want it to go up. You don't want it to go too much up and then down. So that's a recommendation, because I see on some javelins, when some competitions, when it's a strong headwind, people still use a blunt tip, and then the javelins, boom, drop. Last thing, the Kuortane 2018, this code will give you 25% off on all javelins on our webpage. So you can use that. We ship it. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.